Oh, well, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here. We are in. We made it. John got really crackly all of a sudden. Oh, no. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty. Check your mic wire and make sure it's plugged in all the way. The mic. The microphone. The microphone wire. This is my favorite part about live streams. Yep. Now it's plugged it out all the way, right? You're alright?
Yes.
Oh, alright, we're good. We got everything all sorted out. I believed in us the whole time. I knew we'd be able to do it. Anyway, I'm so excited. I've got Free Thought Profit with us and our two main boys. And now it's been a really long time since we've had a conversation, and I hear you've been getting into shenanigans, which is, my favorite.
That's true. Is it acceptable to enjoy an adult beverage in this show, Chish?
I mean, I've already got mine.
Nice. Oh, what are you drinking?
Mine is Kraken black rum with fruit juice.
Nice.
And a paper straw because I'm apparently environmentally friendly.
I'm just sipping on some Guinness, and I'm going to switch to some Patty in a few.
Ooh.
What about you, John?
Well, I'm trying the new one, Seamus. If I can get it working. So with apologies, I've never done this before, this nitro search thing. So if this doesn't work, then you can all laugh heartily at my expense.
That's okay. You should have seen the time I tried to open a wine bottle on stream. I was sitting there futzing with it for a good 5 minutes. The whole chat was like, what? Like suffering with watching me make the attempt. There's gifs of it all over the place.
That's a high-tech Guinness, John. I've never seen that before.
Ooh.
It's new. It's new. I'm trying it for the first time. If I mess it up, don't laugh at me.
Oh, it looks good. Nice pour. Good head.
Yeah. So is that like basically
then?
Is it adding the nitro so that way it's basically like getting carbonated as you're pouring
it? Yes, this thing at the top has to be charged up. Would you believe? With the battery.
It's kind of like a keg.
So it's working so far, anyway.
Like a keg tap. All right. So tell me, what has been going on and what you're getting yourselves in trouble with the Atheist Alliance International? That's my favorite thing. I'm always in trouble with the atheist communities.
Do you want to start, Seamus? You want me to start?
Well, I'll do the short version to lead up to how this came about, I guess, right?
Yes.
I guess the biggest background is that John actually was secretary for that organization for a while. He left not too long after you came on the podcast, I think, right? And then wasn't too long after that you kind of let me know about some of the things that were going on behind the scenes, and then shortly after that, some other things came out. But that's kind of how it started into the fray.
Now, if I'm understanding correctly, the Atheist Alliance is the same group that did have Michael Sherlock, who I've talked about on this channel before, and then they got super Twitter mad at him.
Yes.
Yeah, because somebody called him an asshole, and he called that lovely human being a cunt.
Was that Caitlin Chloe? I feel like that was Caitlin Chloe, wasn't it? Okay. Don't feel bad about naming names here. It's
no, not at all.
Listen, you see Caitlin Chloe, it's just a place where you will not find me.
Right. We are talking about Godless Engineer's wife, right?
Yes.
That's her name?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, which I don't, well, I could say more, but I'm just not going to. But, even though they said that wasn't the reason, that really was the reason he got suspended, which also opened up a whole other can of worms because they're supposed to be champions for blasphemy, but yet in their own language they have this kind of blasphemies. So we started doing that as well.
These blasphemies are okay. Those blasphemies are
right. So if it's against God or anything, it's bad. But if it's against somebody's wife, then it's really bad.
Oh, okay. Now, did they not also have David Silverman, whom they also got rid of? And it seems to be that it just
Correct.
I remember him talking about that, and he was doing an interview with somebody who had been part of the accusations of like the sexual variety, who had come onto a podcast with him to basically undo or attempt to undo some of the damage she had done. And she had said that there was basically some kind of conspiracy to basically get rid of him. Now, is that like true?
I think that's kind of a separate from what we've been doing, but I mean, there's definitely some. I think there's some smoke in that fire. I think it would be kind of unfair to throw all that. You know what I mean? But there has been some interesting things coming to light with that.
All right.
The common thread through both of those things is that the board are a bunch of snivelling, craven cowards who will shit themselves as soon as more than two people say something mean on Twitter.
No way.
And the first time round they sacked Silverman, and second time round they suspended Sherlock without pay for 30 days. So yeah, the board are a deeply unimpressive bunch. And most recently, they arranged another election. Can we call it an election, Seamus? I don't know. But essentially, the whole thing is entirely corrupt. So let me do a quick compare and contrast for between how the elections used to go before the current cabal took over and how they're run now. So the way it used to be was, if you wanted to run for, let's say, Secretary of Atheist Alliance International, you submit a profile. Your profile will be circulated among all the members X number of weeks before the AGM. The annual general meeting comes around, all the candidates are there, all the groups can question the candidates. Then the candidates have to drop off the call, and all the different groups can talk among each other about the candidates. And then they are joined by an independent returning officer who has nothing to do with the current board, nothing to do with any current members, and the independent returning officer manages the election. So there's a secret ballot, everyone says their votes to the returning officer. That person counts the votes and announces the result. That's how elections were always done beforehand.
Fanfare.
Yes, I don't think that's like anything special. I imagine most organizations would run something like that. So the way Atheist Alliance International, the way the current board have arranged it is, if you want to run for, say, secretary now, the first thing you do is you apply to be able to get on the ballot to the current secretary, who performs what they call authentication checks to decide whether you can be on the ballot or not. And if the current secretary decides it's okay for you to run against their position, then you might get on the ballot.
That's so bizarre.
Yes, the vote, it gets worse. The votes are always performed before the AGM, so there's no chance to question any of the candidates. And when you send your vote in, you send it to the current secretary, who counts the votes in his own election and then announces the result.
Okay, so let me make sure I got this straight. Let me make sure I've got this down, because this sounds backward as hell. So if I am the current Pokemon master, the only way you're allowed to challenge me to be the next Pokemon master is if you have to come to me. I get to look at all of your Pokemon, and I get to decide if it's okay for you to battle me. And then we battle, and then I get to choose the winner.
Exactly.
Based on the votes.
It's like if Biden had to apply to Trump, and Trump decided if Biden could be on the ballot, and then even if Trump decided it was okay for Biden to be on the ballot, Trump gets to count all the votes, and then Trump announces the result.
I mean, that sounds super transparent. I don't see the problem.
But it gets even worse than that.
Is there at least do they have like a written down criteria to say like, hey, listen, the authentication of who gets to run against me is like at least an open process?
No,
Of
it's
course
it's
not.
entirely arbitrary.
No.
And the other thing that happens is that people just get randomly either assigned or denied their votes. So they have this distinction that they made in the bylaws, which they call a formal and an informal member, which they haven't decided. They haven't defined, they haven't described how they tell the difference. And in practice, what happens is you join as a member group of Atheist Alliance International, you pay your subscriptions, you wait until the vote's going to happen, and you will either receive a ballot or you won't.
I
And if
have
you don't
to
receive
know.
a ballot,
What?
you just hear the result announced, having not voted, and you're having your WTF moment. And then it's just explained, no, sorry, we decided you're an informal member, so you don't get a vote.
At least
So
religious groups are like, God ordained it, it's fine. And like the
So,
cardinals deliberate for weeks sometimes.
at this point, the Catholic Church is more transparent than Atheist Alliance International. So, you know,
I mean, I don't know how you could possibly have that kind of a process and say that you're not transparent.
right?
Don't worry, Chief, it gets worse.
Oh, of course. Wait, there's more. Billy Mays here.
Yeah.
So there's a group of 7 different national atheist organizations in Latin America. I won't be able to remember them all. It's Peru, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, and there's 7 of them. I can't remember all of the countries, but they just all resigned en masse from Atheist Alliance International.
I saw that in your
And they
article.
resigned en masse because they were denied their vote last year, even though they paid up. They were promised they would get their vote this year, but their vote didn't materialize. And they came on our podcast recently and explained that this isn't a one-off. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yeah. I'm losing my mind. I'm not. It's not you. It's me processing all of this information of like this is just me going what the fuck.
Yeah.
So it was Shirley Rivera who came on our podcast recently, who is from Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico Atheist Group. And essentially, she described how all of the African and Latin American groups suffer this treatment very often. So,
right.
You know, she didn't allege prejudice in so many words, but it was very clear that essentially first world countries, atheist groups from first world countries get treated better than atheist groups from Latin American countries and African countries.
Why?
Well, when she described that they'd been denied their vote again and therefore they were all resigning and weren't going to pay their subscriptions, I mean that sounded like the least they should do. But yeah, it's been.
God, this reminds me of when I looked at the Canadian atheist organization, which is run by one guy who shares his donation box at a 7-Eleven and calls it the headquarters. And the PO box is also the PO box for like potentially a UFO organization and like his own personal business, which is like against terms of actually, if I remember correctly, he's purported to be part of the Atheist Alliance International. At least that group is and his team.
Yeah.
I believe that's true, Chief. Yes, I believe that's true.
Yeah.
Or was.
Did they get vetted? Did they get to vote? No.
Well, they have a part of the bylaws that says if all the members vote in one particular way, if all the members, let's say every atheist group in the world passes a unanimous motion to adopt a particular position, they have something in the bylaws that says the board can just ignore that and do the opposite. Like the most anti-democratic provision you could imagine. And their vice president, Bill Flavelle, was challenged about this. And when people said, "What the fuck, Bill?" His response was that he was concerned the organization would have been taken over by feminists. So he had to make sure that the feminists couldn't all group together and pass a motion that would be binding on the board. At which point, people explained to him, "Well, Bill, if all the feminists group together and pass a motion, then it should be adopted by the board. I mean, there's no reason. It's not your job to stop that, Bill.
I don't know if you know how this works. This isn't an oligarchy."
In all honesty, that might be the only time that Howard Bumman was ever transparent, because he was absolutely honest about his position.
I mean, fair enough, I guess.
That's it. And then the don't worry, it gets worse. Chase, it gets worse.
No, great. Yeah, I'm already gone. All right, let's go.
So we have a new president of AAI, a guy called David Ornstein, and the process in the bylaws for electing the president is that the officers are elected by the new board. So what should happen is all of the atheist groups in the world get together, they elect a board of, I believe there's 13 seats on the board. Once all those seats are filled in an election, then the board is supposed to consider their own composition, and they have a discussion, and they'll decide among themselves by vote who's going to fill each officer role. But what happened was the outgoing president, Howard Berman, introduced David Ornstein to the last board in February.
By the process we detailed before, right? The process of he gets to choose who is going to run against him. Okay.
He was resigning. Howard Berman was resigning, so he introduced David Ornstein to the board meeting on February, and described David as transitioning into the president's role. None of the members knew anything about this. This was done behind the back of the members. And you have to understand that the election was in May. This happened in February. The decision as to who should be the president had absolutely nothing to do with David Ornstein or Howard Berman or anyone else in that room. That decision should be made by the new board after the election in May, but essentially the whole thing was fixed beforehand. It was decided by February who the new president should be, and this has been revealed not by someone telling a story. Oh, so and so said this thing to that person. It's all documented. So
yeah, I read it in your article. If it's not linked below, I'll make sure the article that you're talking about that you guys had done that laid all of this information out will be linked in the description below. If it's not already there, I'll make sure that gets there at the end of the stream.
And that's internal AAI documents that describe how this was done. And also during this period, by the way, David Ornstein was coming on our board and on our podcast, and he described himself as an outsider. And I'm the new broom coming in to get rid of all the previous problems, and you keep asking me about all these bad things the old board have done. I don't know anything about that. I'm just a new guy coming in. And the whole time he was cooking up a deal with the old board to put him in as president, and nobody knew that until May. This AGM just gone past this month. So I don't know how.
This whole thing sounds like a dumpster fire. It just completely sounds like a dumpster fire.
Yes.
We've done, Christ, I don't know, almost 20 episodes on this. And, I've sent about a dozen gifs of a horse being beaten to John as a kind of like a joke, because I'm thinking, oh, geez, we got to hit this again. But then it's kind of like, soon as we look at what's going on, it's like, the whole thing from Godfather, I thought I was out and then they break me back in.
It's like, back in. That's what I feel like every time I hear the argument about atheism versus lack atheism. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. No, get me out.
It's like whenever the sheer douchebaggery, you thought was done, around the corner comes this, fresh pile of fucks, that they just deliver, and it's just like, I just cannot believe it.
I mean, and that, like, I hadn't even heard about any of this until you sent me your article. So I was like, this came as like news to me. I knew the weird stuff that had gone on with Silverman, and I knew the weird stuff, like the shade, like way more shady. Well, at least from like a construction way, whereas Silverman's was sort of a different deal. The construction around what had happened to Michael Sherlock, because I had actually tracked a lot of what had happened on Twitter when it was going down, and so I was like, what is going on with this now? You said that, John, you were on the board and you ran this for a little while, and I remember that time. So can you tell, like, what happened between point A and point B?
Good question. So I was on the board 2015, 2016, and I left January 2017. I handed over to a guy called Bill Flavelle, and he took over from me in early 2017. And his issue was he was co-opted onto the board rather than elected, which in and of itself is fine.
Yeah.
But what the bylaws say is if you're co-opted onto the board in extremis and there's some emergency and you need to find a new director, you have to be elected at the very next AGM. So by the end of 2017, Bill had to put himself up for election at an AGM, and what he decided to do instead was just not have an AGM. And what that means is, under the bylaws, all of the board are supposed to get a mandate from the members every year. They're supposed to publish financial accounts to the members every year, explain what the money's been spent on. They're supposed to explain what they're going to do next year and get a mandate. But Bill just didn't do any of that. And all of the members were obviously up in arms. And so there was a lot of discussion around how to rescue the organisation in early 2018. And some of the people involved with that were Annie Laurie Gaylor and Dan Barker from FFRF, who I suspect everyone would agree are not, they're pretty serious people. They do not run a minor organisation. They know what they're doing. So they were trying to essentially put a process in place that would rescue this organisation in a democratic way based on a vote of all the members. What happened was Bill Flavelle and Howard Berman, who were the president and vice president, they went off and had their own secret meeting and then came back and announced, look, we've just changed the bylaws, and they changed the bylaws in the following way. And they did this completely illegitimately, completely outside the rules of the organisation. But what they said was, we changed the bylaws and we've decided there are no more AGMs. We will no longer publish accounts to the members. We will no longer have elections from the members to the board. Instead of that, the way to change the bylaws from now on is that we'll do it ourselves, and the way to appoint new directors to the board is that we'll do it ourselves. So they basically just took the whole organisation over. They took personal control of the organisation, and
it was a
coup. $10,000 in the bank account, and they just took it all.
They took a democratic organization, pulled a coup, and then basically like instilled themselves as oligarchs.
Yep, and now it becomes less surprising, Cheech, when I explained how the election process went down this year.
Right.
These are the people that arranged this election process this year. So the fact that it lacks any democratic credibility should not be surprising to anyone.
Well, why are they denying it at this point, though? If they're going to say, like, hey, listen, we're going to make the rules however we want, and somebody says, well, that's not democratic anymore, they should be going, yeah, fight me.
Well, so the new guy that I mentioned who has come in, David Ornstein, I have to say, so we've had several conversations with him on our podcast, several conversations by email. They all go exactly the same way, and honestly, it is utterly bizarre interacting with this guy, because the way it goes is he'll say, here's this area of very specific and narrow wrongdoing that we're asking you about. Here is the documentary proof that this happened. Here is the dude who did the thing on video talking about doing the thing. You give him all the evidence and you say, David, can you account for this specific problem, please? And universally and uniformly, the answer will take the form, I'm a wonderful person who has done fantastic things. And he'll start reciting his CV about all the great things he's done in his life.
I'm super
And
transparent and very, very honest. I've always been super transparent and very, very honest. Nobody has any evidence of me not being a bad person directly.
No, that's not
what he will
I'm
never
a
ever
person.
do. What he will never ever do is answer a straight question about his own behaviour. It's always, what was the thing he said last time, Seamus? Your windscreen in your car is bigger than your rear view mirror. That means you should spend more time looking to the future than looking at the past.
Right.
I think, yeah, that's what you say if you've just run over a big bunch of people and there's 10 dead bodies behind you. Like, so
it doesn't matter. It's in the past, and you can either run from it or you can learn from it. I'm choosing to run from it. Don't worry, it didn't happen.
Exactly that.
It never ends with these guys, and through some of the how should we say leaked or shared exchanges, we have shirts pending now because we've been dubbed leprechauns.
I love it. So I got called, because I'm so short, I got called a leprechaun a lot in school. So there was talk when I was in high school that there was going to be like a big event, and it was going to be like chase the leprechaun around, and there's like a school of like 400 kids, and I'm like, oh god, please no. But like everybody's wearing greens and blacks today. I'm here for it.
Right.
Yeah.
They definitely as much as they talk shit, they definitely keep up on what they do, and whenever we're on screen. So hi guys.
Hello.
So the leprechauns are here.
I mean, I gotta say, there's something to be said for like keeping an eye on what people who are critical of you are saying, and that's a valuable thing to do. But if you're watching them and not addressing what they're saying, provided the criticism is valid, which I've read through your guys' stuff, this is valid criticism. You're not being unreasonable. You're not just sitting out here calling names. This is a legitimate, hey, can you guys, you're not even telling them, hey, you guys are bad people. You're saying, hey, can you address and fix this? So this is all completely reasonable from my point of view.
Oh, and John, for one, has just based them is it's not directly or wrongly as you even characterize there. I'm saying like repeatedly saying them emails, hey, can you ask this question? What about this? What about that? Ad nauseum for a long time before we've even had them on the podcast. At different points, and they still just do these incredible sleazy dodges instead of actually addressing it. In fact, whenever they sort of do, they actually just paint themselves in a worse corner or in a worse light.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. You sent me this, Facebook post from like, I don't know, an hour and a half ago now, maybe, and it's like, it's so bad. This is so bad. They need to hire a PR person.
Oh, from the new president or the
this David Ornstein guy.
Yeah. So what made me laugh about it, Cheech, was he complains that all these people are attacking him and criticizing him on social media, and this is awful. And he's obviously talking about us when he refers to some of that, because he's repeating verbatim some of the criticisms that we've made. But what he hasn't noticed is that if people make specific criticisms of this wrongdoing or that wrongdoing on Twitter, and you've done nothing wrong, that's easily defeated by just answering the question and explaining what you did, when, and why you did it. If we say, David, it's not up to you to decide in February that you'll be the president after the election in May. Why were you attending board meetings in February? And why were you introduced as the president when deciding the president is the function of the board that was elected in May? And he'll respond by that by saying, "Oh, look, people are attacking me on Twitter, and I'm a wonderful person who's done fantastic." Whereas, if people are attacking your Twitter and you think it's unjust, that tactic is easily defeated by just answering the question, David. But he never seems to do that.
I notice that sometimes people will say, "Well, I answered this," because I've been in a situation where people have criticized me, and I've said, "Okay, here's the answer," and then I'll get criticized for the same thing later. And the answer to that isn't to just be like, "Oh, I already answered this off." It's, here's the answer to that. You just do it in like one video or one thing where you just go through everything, boom, 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 boom. Here's what this is. Here's what that is, and then you can just link people straight to that thing, right? So then it's like, it's you don't have to spend time, you don't have to waste people's time, but don't assume that everybody who's asking you about something are actually coming after you. They might just legitimately be asking because this is the first time they heard this information.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Do you guys want to take a look at this Facebook post? Because I feel like we should just read it through, because it's going to demonstrate everything that you've been saying so far. All right, I'll switch us over. Perfect. All right, so yeah, welcome to Debate Hub, by the way. I didn't actually do the intro. Hi, yeah, we're here. Well, this is Debate Hub. This is episode number 3. Earlier, Sweet. We were live with Landon and Manya talking about volcanoes. So if you ever needed to debunk anybody about Age of the Earth, or if you ever needed to debunk anybody about like global warming, everything you ever need to know about volcanoes over in that video from earlier today.
Wait. Did they discuss Joe versus volcano though? That's what I need to know.
No, you should have come and asked.
Oh, damn it. I'll never know if that would actually work. Okay.
All right. And yeah, consider supporting so we can host more of these. They're a lot of fun. And we were also talking politics before, which is actually kind of in sync, because this is just politics. It's just a different kind. So let's head on over. Special thanks to Ben Hoven for the little audio clip there. I love it. I'm playing it every time I get an opportunity. So we are currently sharing the David Orstein. I think you guys should be able to see it on the internal. We did also have a question asking about what everybody's drinking. Mine's empty.
Sipping on Guinness. I'm going to switch to some Patty here in a minute.
True Irishman, I see.
Yeah.
So this is Nitro Surge and Kirker and Greer's Shamrock Irish Whiskey.
Next time I get you guys on, I'm gonna have to go and pick myself up some Kilkenny.
Hey, yeah, I owe you a bottle of Irish.
I do like it.
I'll promise you that, and I'll get that to you at once.
I should give you the actual link to. There is a way to send me alcohol. It's not even actually convoluted. It's just you have to. We can get into DMs. So if you're in the live chat and you wanted to send me booze, hit me up.
I promise to do that all the time. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's just no rush.
Can I make a suggestion, Chief?
Yeah.
If you get some distillers on or some brewers on and say nice things about their products, sometimes they send you stuff in the post. Seamus can attest to that. Can you not, Seamus?
True. This is true.
I love Kilkenny. Send me more.
That is a very good model. You had they do the rye and then the small batch, right?
I love rye. Rye is my jam. All right, so this is just posted right before we went live, pretty much, and this is the sitting president who was definitely legitimately elected to the Atheist Alliance. Yeah. All right. Cool. So I'm gonna read this.
He was legitimately elected 5 months before the election.
Right. Of course, it's just totally fine. Totally fine. We'll take this a paragraph at a time because I think that there's like quite a bit in each paragraph. So, dear friends, as many of you know, close to 400 likes from my original post, I have recently been elected in our free and fair our free and fair election to the AAI board by the organization's affiliates. Upon joining, I was nominated by the board to serve as president. It's my absolute pleasure to serve, and I welcome the chance and responsibility to help theists threatened by religious violence. I see some problems already.
Well, first, anyone who has to announce and emphasize that their election is free and fair probably wasn't elected in a free and fair election. That thing announcing in advance that your election is free and fair, that's when the traffic cop stops someone and says, "How you doing this evening, sir?" And the answer is, "Officer, there are definitely no dead people in the boot."
Guys, I won the election. It was fair and square. If I get an excuse to break out my Trump impression, I will break out my Trump impression.
Anytime.
This whole, as many of you know, close to 400 likes on my original post. Keep that 400 likes in mind because that gets really, really funny later on. And then, is it just me or are they trying to already undermine whatever criticism so they don't have to actually address it?
Right. See, it's okay. Everything makes sense. 400 likes, 400 people liked it. It must be okay. Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
This is an international organization, and this guy is the president of an international organization, and he's concerned about 400 likes.
That has UN status, by the way, and that's a whole other can of worms. That's a whole other dumpster fire. We should talk about it something too.
Well, let me give you a couple of sentences just on that, Chish, because I think you're exactly right to highlight how banal this is in comparison to the status of the organization. So, Atheist Alliance International is the only atheist group in the world that has participatory status at the Council of Europe and special consultative status at the United Nations. And so I'll give you an example of the kind of thing that has gone on with AAI at the United Nations. So at every country in the United Nations is subject to what they call a universal periodic review. So each country comes up and all of their peers examine them on their human rights record. And a few years ago, Ireland was getting examined on its record. So the Minister for Justice has to turn up, and all of the senior officials in the Department of Justice turn up, and every single country in the world and a bunch of NGOs can examine them and ask them tough questions about their human rights record. And Michael Nugent, then from Atheist Alliance International, had status and was able to turn up and really give them a hard time about the blasphemy law on the in the Irish Constitution. And if you know anything about politicians and senior civil servants, someone's mean about them on the radio and they just don't care. But if they're going to turn up at the United Nations and be shamed in front of their peers from all of the other countries, then they just don't like that. And less than 12 months after Michael did that at the United Nations, a date was announced for a referendum, and that blasphemy provision was removed from the Irish Constitution.
And this was Michael Sherlock, who was the president at that time, that they unceremoniously booted out because Caitlin Chloe didn't like that he used a word on Twitter.
Well, yeah, exactly. Michael was Michael was president of that, or executive director, I think, at that time. But I think that's the kind of thing that used to go on at AAI. But the people who took over, who essentially got rid of all the member groups, got rid of FFRF and everyone who knew what they were doing, they haven't the first clue what they're about. So the only thing that they've done at the United Nations since is they sent a one-page letter to the Secretary General of the United Nations demanding that the United Nations adopt their declaration, and their declaration demanded the right to be secular. Now, they had missed the fact that there's already a right to be secular in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights for decades.
I was going to say, isn't that already okay?
Yes. So already 5 seconds after hearing about their new campaign, you've realised that their campaign is bullshit, Tish. We have not yet heard what the Secretary General of the United Nations made of this campaign. But that's the only thing that they've done at the United Nations since. They've been entirely silent on everything else. So you're going from an organization that used to stand up in front of the entire United Nations Human Rights Council and address the senior representatives of every country in the world on human rights issues, and we've gone from there to the current statement that you're reading out now, where the president is boasting about how many likes he got on his last Facebook post.
It's not. It doesn't even break 1,000. It doesn't even break 500. It doesn't even break half of 1,000. Why? Like.
But he made clear to point out that he has 5,000 friends.
Oh yeah, no, we get to that. We get to that later. Okay. It gets better. It gets better. All right, so let's check this out here. So we've got beforehand, do you have anything you wanted to add to that paragraph?
No, I'm good. John?
Oh, all right.
No, I just want to, I think I mentioned earlier that David's response to everything is, I'm a fantastic person who has done wonderful things. I would like to file this, my post got 400 likes up on that same shelf full of David's statements describing why he's a fantastic person who has done wonderful things. And I suspect there'll be one or two more things to put on that shelf before we get to the end of this statement.
AAI was founded almost 2 decades ago and does wonderful work in helping others. Well, I mean, it did. There have been years of tumult, and 2022 is no different. Really? Because didn't you just explain how what they're presenting is absolute nonsense?
Yeah.
Great. So now they're just going to take all that 2 decades of work and throw it in the absolute trash when the entire UN thinks you're a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the passive voice as well. There has been tumult, as if we've been just sitting here minding our own business, and tumult arose out of nowhere and confronted us, rather than we've been bringing the whole thing up and people have been pointing that out.
God, we've only been trying to ruin it since we got here, guys. What are you even talking about? We're a whole organization that's based on calling out other nations and calling out other organizations so that way they can, not kill people or unjustly either jail them or fine them. But, we don't bring any criticism or we don't want any fights. We don't want to get in... Seems bizarre to me.
Another thing that you might find interesting before we get too far along, which I don't think we mentioned already, Gail Miller, whenever after the cabal went down the coup, left and formed another organization known as, I believe, AAI, which also was in part with Godless Mom or Godless Mother out of Canada, which was also involved in a data breach from AAI to start their funding. Yeah, so there was so that's why that organization is one of the reasons why that organization is no longer.
Who was also an executive director for a while, isn't that right, Seamus? Co-executive director. So you mentioned earlier, Chief, that there was Silverman, there was Sherlock, there were two other executive directors, and they all joined and left within a 9-month period.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, I think that's pretty impressive to hire and sack 4 different executive directors.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm calling it right now. I need a debate hub episode with all of these ex-directors. I need every one of you guys come. I want to hear everything. Spill me the tea. Tell me what happened.
A lot of the ex-directors are on the side of what we are saying. I mean, Sherlock for one has been very vocal about this recently. He even flat out called out the fact that it was a coup. He tried to address it when he was there. So.
Right, which is why they had an issue with his Twitter.
Oopsie.
Sherlock's whole shtick, his entire reputation for literally a decade was being the world's cursiest atheist. No atheist in the world used more 4-letter words than Michael Sherlock.
Right.
And somehow Atheist Alliance International managed to hire Michael Sherlock, and a couple of months later shit themselves because he said a 4-letter word. Who did you think you were hiring?
I'm sure you'll do well here. I'm sure you'll do well here, Mr. Dice Clay. It's nice to meet you.
I remember this. I remember when this went down. Now, do you guys have thoughts about the Friendly Atheist? Because I remember him having a huge fucking deal with that.
Oh, yeah. Those two guys have got beef. I'm a bit cautious about getting into the details. I don't know too much about the details, but what I know is Michael Sherlock made an allegation of plagiarism against Hemant Mehta. And I don't know the details, but there was something that Michael wrote, and it appeared in something that Hemant wrote, and there was an argument about attribution, and I've never read it, and I've never compared it to the original, and I don't know the details. All I know is those two guys have beef going back quite some time.
I will also kind of add, I do respect Hemant for what he's done over the years, but I do take exception to the fact that he's been a little selective about certain things, especially this story, because pretty much every step of the way that we've covered it, he's been spoon-fed this information, and the only time he's ever chimed in is whenever certain people are named that he finds it convenient to shit on the organization. Is that a fair characteristic, John? I mean, I don't think that's unfair to say.
There's so we focused on it because it's not kind of central, but there's a bunch of stuff around the periphery here, which is, the hypocrisy that goes on is just staggering. So I'll give you one small example. So you're familiar, Chief, with the fact that Michael Sherlock used the word retarded. He said religion is a retarded relic. That was his tweet. And he got suspended without pay for 30 days for that tweet because people didn't like the word retarded. Okay.
By people, you mean Godless Engineer's wife.
Yes. Yeah. So, God based in Canada too. So God said at one point, he called a particular individual retarded. Not what Sherlock said, which was referring to religion as an idea, as a retarded relic. He called a particular individual, "You're retarded." And he did that on Twitter, and he got suspended for 24 hours on Twitter. And when he got back on Twitter, he then engaged literally in a 2-year campaign of tweeting at Jack Dorsey and demanding that Jack Dorsey come on his podcast to talk about how he get suspended for 24 hours off Twitter for calling someone retarded, which is outrageous because God believes he should be able to call anyone retarded. Then God, as one of the leaders in Atheist Alliance International, when Michael Sherlock got suspended from his job for 30 days without pay for using the word retarded about the idea of religion. God had no problem with that at all.
Oh, okay.
God's view of the word was we exchanged some emails with God. He basically responded and said, "Look, I can't get involved with every little minutiae. I can't get involved with all these details."
It's always always this group of people. You can always tell when they're like, "Well, when it happens to me, everybody else should care and I care. But if it happens to somebody else, so listen, that's not my problem."
And the same with Lawrence Krauss. Lawrence Krauss, I don't know, like the guy has written about little else recently than criticizing university administrators for caving to the woke mob. That's Lawrence's shtick at the minute. That's fine. He can write about that if he likes. But what happened to Michael Sherlock in an organization where Gadsad and Lawrence Krauss are both on the advisory council? They both have leadership positions in this organization, in their own organization. Michael Sherlock got suspended from his job without pay for tweeting "religion is a retarded relic." Lawrence Krauss has absolutely nothing to say about that.
Right.
He'll demand that every university has to stand up against the woke mob and shout down the woke mob. But when someone says to Lawrence, see this organization that you're a leader in, maybe you could do the same thing that you're demanding all these university administrators do. Lawrence had absolutely nothing to say on the matter, couldn't find anything wrong. So, yeah, I think Seamus is right. If you look around the edges of this stuff, the amount of hypocrisy around is just staggering.
Yeah, it also seems to be a little bit of a priority issue, right? Are you going to prioritize the privilege that the Western world has to argue semantics like this versus like person is about to be hung for being gay in X country because of the theocracy?
Yes, exactly that. Exactly that.
All right, let's do the next paragraph. Right before I joined the board, one of the officers resigned, making allegations of voting failures. She also suggested that I was not elected fairly, but the fact is I was elected under the same bylaws that she was. So if I am illegitimate, which I am not, then I guess so is she. She was not either. So immediately skirting the issue, right?
Yeah.
So
in the sheet,
he's referring there to Shirley Rivera.
Shirley.
By the way, Shirley has said that this process is illegitimate. Shirley has said, I believe she said the board should describe themselves as the acting board or the temporary board or something like that, because she has been campaigning from the inside to say, guys, this just doesn't meet the required standards and we should be open about that. So for David to say, well, you can't complain about me being illegitimate because that means you're illegitimate, Shirley would answer, of course. Have you not been listening? That's exactly what I've been saying for 2 years.
The thing is like this is there's something to say about like if I'm not legitimate, then that person's legitimate, which means their criticism of what went on, which he also characterized as a suggestion. Is that accurate? Is the characterization of suggestion close to what happened, or was it just a straight on, hey, this is bullshit?
No, it's a straight on, this is bullshit. And that's why Shirley resigned. Shirley said, this is bullshit. I can no longer claim to be a legitimately elected board member. Therefore, I resign. What else do you want Shirley to do? I mean, to use the fact that he's carrying on as president and she's resigning somehow as evidence against her position is bizarre. I mean, that just means she's entirely committed to the position that she's set out. And I don't know, I have to say, so see this thing about leprechauns, like I have no problem if someone wants to call me a leprechaun. That's not an issue. If someone wants to call me a cunt, that's not an issue. That's absolutely fine. But what irked me, I have to say, was when after I saw that, when I heard Shirley talking about the Latin American and African groups being treated poorly. Because I was looking at all the messages, the internal messages, when Seamus and I were getting called the leprechauns, and all of the board understood who that referred to. Nobody objected to that term at all, and on its own, I don't think that would be a problem. But then you put it beside the fact that the Latin American groups and African groups are getting treated poorly, and you think, why are these guys treating people based on their origin?
Yeah,
Like,
is leprechaun racist at that point?
well, it doesn't bother me. I tell you what bothers me is the fact that it's objectively measurable. So if you look at Shirley's allegation, which is the Latin American groups did not receive a ballot and were not
Right.
allowed to vote, and the African groups disproportionately did not receive a ballot and were not allowed to vote. David could very easily answer that using fucking integers. He could say, here's the number of members that we have, here's the number of ballots that were issued, here's the regions in the world that the ballots were issued to. If it's the case that the Latin American and African groups were disproportionately excluded from votes, then that's a fucking problem
That's a
that someone
problem.
needs to answer. Yes, but and the answer to the question that David's being asked there, what Shirley's putting to David, and what David needs to respond to, you can respond using fucking integers. You can
Yeah.
say, here are the numbers. David responds by saying, I'm a wonderful person who's done fantastic things. You know, it's infuriating.
Yeah, and she even said that if they actually did a reset and a reboot and did this correctly, that David would have her vote if they did it right. You know, it wasn't a personal thing at all. So it was just about, the ethics of it all. You know, it,
What
it, it,
ethics?
it is absolutely, yeah, well, yeah, exactly, lack thereof, right? So,
I
but
just don't. I don't understand how an organization that's supposed to be an international organization that's supposed to be putting forward secularism and or humanism, depending on how you parse that,
sure.
and then saying that, hey, we don't want these additional biases going out there, decides to just not give some people a ballot to vote on the thing that they're definitely legitimately voting on. And I don't know why it would be a problem for David to address that, to say, hey, if that happened, that's a problem. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen the next time, because that's a huge issue, an ethical issue.
Right.
Exactly. If someone's making allegations that are untrue along those lines, that's a problem that David could easily defeat by just fucking answering the question. But we just get all these big long statements in which he recites his CV and tells us how great it is, but never answers the question.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Like, nobody brought this other lady up. I don't know why he's comparing his election to her election or whatever. This seems to be addressed.
Yeah.
This is hand waving. This is trying to bring something up that, or pull something in that's completely unrelated. Maybe her election was also illegitimate, and
Yeah.
it doesn't address the
All
issue.
it's all fruit of the poisonous tree at this point. I mean, that's the biggest
Right.
problem, right? So, I mean, everything needs a total reset because everything they're doing at this point is all, of a clandestine nature. And,
Right.
The fact that they want to obfuscate this is disgusting,
Yeah, obfuscation. That's a perfect word for it. I'm gonna read the next paragraph. There are, of course, other critics of AAI out there. Hey. Some of who post random private internal conversations as a form of character assassination, never judging their own ethical lapses in their post. Hey, look over there. It's not me, guys. This is definitely not projection. I don't know what you're talking about. Is that what I'm...
He's referring to the internal messages about leprechauns.
Yeah, that's the group DMs, right? Hey, listen, if you're in a group DM, make sure that your group DM is supposed to be private before you start posting in there. Because that, like, don't assume privacy in DMs, because DMs are not inherently private. They're at the discretion of whoever's in there.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna go into the next one. Or the oldies but goodies who claim AAI has been unjustly run since 2018, and who claim, without any legal authority, I don't know why that would matter, that the only remedy is to dissolve the organization, which is what you just said. An organization that supports humanist schools in Uganda sends money to Mumbarka, Bala's wife and family, works to support asylum for atheists, and around the globe. I could go on. I feel like that's just missing the point of what's actually being said.
This is also the same kind of thing that the Catholic Church might say after a scandal. Oh yes, some people make accusations of naughty business on the part of the preachers or priests and whatnot. But think about the children that we feed and the good works that the church does. It's the same fucking argument, right? I mean, it's just here, look over there. We're really the good guys. And they also paint this picture that it's like a 747 landing down and some BFE place in the world to hug and rescue a poor little atheistic child and shelter them, and that doesn't fucking happen either. A lot of this stuff is done by one person making calls to different agencies and trying to coordinate. And I'm not shitting on those efforts, but they make it to this degree that it's just
they're misunderstanding. This is not a criticism about the good works the organization and its members are doing. It's a criticism about the way the board is behaving specifically. You can reset the board without undoing whatever good has been done so far.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I would make a slightly different point, actually, because let's go Sherlock, Chief. First thing that Michael Sherlock did after he got kicked out of Atheist Alliance International was to do exactly one of these GoFundMes that David Ornstein's talking about there.
That was kind of
atheist in atheist in prison for blasphemy, and we need to hire a lawyer. Let's hire this person a lawyer. I contributed to those things. I'm very happy to contribute to those things. But the point is, Michael Sherlock did that after he left AAI and before he joined AAI. You do not, like, if David Ornstein seems to be suggesting that he has to be in AAI because otherwise the people in prison in Kenya for blasphemy won't get their lawyers. Dude, you can resign tomorrow and still do that. You could have been doing that fucking last year before you had anything to do with AAI. The purpose of
your resume might be
is to get you international recognition so that you can stand up in the United Nations Human Rights Council and make an argument. Like, there's no sense in which fundraising for a good cause requires you to be the president of Atheist Alliance International.
Right. Why do you need those 400 likes to do something good?
Right. Precisely.
I still don't know, like, those who claim without any legal authority. Who said anything about legal authority? We're talking about ethics. Ethics and law don't always go hand in hand.
Exactly.
It's just a bizarre. It's something that is an underhanded trying to undermine the criticism or the people doing the criticism, as if legal authority would matter.
Yeah. As if we don't have the authority to critique them, right? They're above us.
It's not like you're going out and filing like legal complaints or something.
again, all this could be written by the church.
I think you're exactly right, Cheese. That's where this is going. I think you're right. You're exactly right in what you said, Cheese. Where this is going is where the argument's going to end up is if you think we've done an unethical thing, you should go to court and sue us. And if you're not willing to go to court, then all bets are off. We've not been convicted of a crime. Ipso facto, everyone should shut up. But,
yeah, that's not how that works.
Like,
believe it or not, hypocrisy is not a legal issue.
Right.
There's a whole big area of very fucking bad behavior before you get to federal prison. Like the fact that you're not in prison, David, does not mean everything that you've done is above board.
You can also be in prison and still have been a good person, because you could be in prison wrongfully, or you could also be in prison for something that the majority of people don't think is really worth being in prison for. Like, I don't know, weed.
Right.
Exactly. That's not the measure here.
It's
whether
completely,
or not
it's a red
Atheist
herring
Alliance-
as hell. It's like completely asinine.
Yes, whether or not Atheist Alliance International has behaved properly and ethically, whether or not David Ornstein was validly elected as the president, is not in the United States Criminal Code. That is not how we measure.
There's also something a little bit subtle in here that you might not have noticed. He's taking credit for shit that AAI did before he was there.
Yep.
Exactly.
So he's like, if I'm not here, then these good things that AAI did will be gone. It's like, no, those things were well established before you got there, motherfucker.
Quite right. And he's saying that at the same time, Cheese, that his colleagues are excusing their bad behavior based on this organization was a total fuck up. Everything was about it was wrong, and we had to destroy it to save it. We had to destroy the village in order to save it.
But they didn't take out the good things that it had already done, and in fact are taking credit for those things.
Right.
So,
exactly.
meaning that when he says, oh, well, but all these good things, I can't just get dismantled. That's the thing you already did.
But they saved it from the feminists.
I mean,
not the feminists. Yeah. No.
Because they'd be here with all the lattes and all that shit.
First off, I call immediate bullshit on that, because if you're talking third wave feminism, they literally used Caitlin Chloe to get rid of Michael Sherlock. So maybe your wokeism you didn't quite save it from.
Oopsie poopsies.
And this isn't like he said, she said. If you look on their website, they have published on their website their reasons for making all these anti-democratic changes to the bylaws. So if you ask them, why did you take out the bylaw that says you had to publish financial accounts every year? Why did you take out the bylaw that says directors have to be elected by the members? Why did you do all of this stuff? Their answer is the organization was falling to bits. It was a total disaster. It wasn't doing anything. We had to destroy the village in order to save it. And then David Ornstein comes along, and all of a sudden, it's the greatest organization that ever was. There was no problems at all.
But if the good things that happened when it was the organization that they felt like they needed to dismantle, and then when they reinstate it and it's not actually successfully presenting anything to the UN, it seems like they did the exact opposite of whatever their potential intention was. So it almost sounds like it was all smoke and mirrors bullshit.
Quite right. All
right, let's go to the next paragraph here. So here's the deal. Well, we're gonna get schooled now. Okay. I want to engage with everyone. Hi, welcome to Debate Hub. This is a show where we're all about treating people fairly. So if you would like to come on and please present your case for what's actually been addressed here and what's in the articles that will be linked below, if they're not already there, then I'm more than happy to host you, and I assure you, you will be treated fairly.
I think David should come on the Debate Hub.
Oh my god, if you guys want to have a conversation with him on Debate Hub, I am more than happy to host that. Please, yes, by all, yes.
We're supposed to
Let's do it.
have we're supposed to have him on the show this coming Sunday. I was really, whenever this dropped, I was anticipating the last thing to be, and I will no longer engage with so and so or something, because so far he hasn't bailed on us. But I don't know. Maybe that should be the bet.
If he's gonna be a little bit more comfortable on a neutral platform, I will assure him I will be fair and I will be neutral. I'll treat him just as fairly. So, I want to focus on helping those atheists who are in danger. I want to make the world safer for humanists and non-believers and freethinkers. Well, good on you. That's my only wish, and when I was asked to help AAI, I jumped at the opportunity, period, because, don't start a sentence with that. Ultimately, AAI is a good organization. I mean, by saying ultimately, I feel like you're admitting there are problems after saying that there were no problems.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just what their whole idea of, like, there's really nothing going on, but there has been problems, but there isn't problems. Things were tumultuous, but they aren't. But they are still in 2022. But ultimately, it's a great organization.
Can I make a recommendation? David, hire yourself a PR person and let them put out the PR things that your organization needs to have out. And if you're going
only I could save AAI.
Yeah, if you're going to post something that is like as the president making an announcement for AAI, which is what this appears to be, run it by your PR person first.
Definitely don't announce it ahead of the either, right? So, but,
yeah, yeah.
Here's maybe a heterodox thought. So, out of order, Cheese. You should tell me if this is out of order. But you see this stuff about we're going to help atheists.
Yeah.
I have concerns about this. So there have been cases in the past when I has arranged fundraising campaigns for someone who was not what they were presenting themselves to be, and they had to row back on the funding campaign, and there was apologies issued and all the rest. But what we should know about this board is that we're a small group of individuals with laptops. That's it. But if you go and read their network, they talk about the Atheist Support Network. And if you read it, it reads like international rescue. It reads like, if you're an atheist in trouble around the world, you should contact me, we're going to help you out. And my problem with that is there are fucking atheists in trouble around the world. David Ornstein is in no position to make any promises to anyone. So the pretense of the whole thing is that, there's something like Amnesty International or the United Nations refugee organization or some kind of body that can help all of these people around the world. It's fucking not. It's half people who are going to start a GoFundMe, and they shouldn't be representing themselves as anything else.
There's a difference between
it's perfectly reasonable for some.
It's a difference between a hotline in America that's going to be like a self-help, make you feel a little bit better, and maybe tell you your contact information in your area, and international, I'm going to get hung tomorrow, please send help.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if, I'm sure a lot of the GoFundMes have done that are great. I have contributed to several of them. I'm sure the number of people who aren't what they're representing themselves to be is small. That's absolutely fine. But the whole kind of tenor of the thing, if you read their website, if you're in trouble and the Islamists are at the door, phone us and Thunderbirds are go. And I'm thinking, guys, for fuck's sake, all you're doing is starting a GoFundMe. And, anyone can do like I said, Michael Sherlock did the same thing on his fucking own. One guy did exactly the same thing as the whole of AAI is doing the week after he left AAI. So this whole pretense of the atheist support network, I would be concerned that it's offering help to people that they're in no position to offer. And the reason I say that is because when I'm no longer a member of atheist, when I was, we used to regularly get contact from people in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in horrible situations. The last thing you want to do is say, that's terrible, I'm going to help you out. I mean, what we would always do is contact Amnesty, contact the United Nations. If someone had made it to Ireland and they wanted help in the refugee process, we gave them as much help as we could. But how can, a dozen people with laptops in Dublin help someone in an absolutely horrible situation in Pakistan? The last thing you want to do is fucking pretend that you're international rescue and you're going to turn up at the door and help them.
Yeah,
So
it's not Team
have a
World
serious
Police,
difficulty with
Team America. It's not doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
There's like
Precisely.
again,
It's
it
half a dozen
reminds
people.
me. Yeah, right. It reminds me of, again, when I was looking at the Canadian atheist organized, whatever the hell that thing, the 7-Eleven. And I was like, I went through their website, and on one of their pages, it was like, oh, like get help with whatever, and all it did was barely link resources. So it was just like, hey, if you're immigrating, we can't help you with immigration. Here's a link to a website, and it was like OntarioGov.org. Basically, it was just like the province. It's like, here's the Canadian government website. Good luck, fucker. It's like, who are you helping?
Yeah.
Yourself?
Yeah.
I don't know. Blew my mind. There's one other thing in here that I noticed that was really, really subtle, right? It's when it says, I want to engage with everyone. I want to focus on helping those atheists who are in danger. It's one, implying urgency over the use of their time, and two, it's heavily implying that anybody who criticizes them or continues to talk about what they hinted at existing but also said didn't exist, that they've written about above, if you talk about any of this stuff, you're preventing people from getting help, or that you're against those people getting help.
Yes.
That's incredibly slippery.
All you're doing is starting a fucking GoFundMe. How is anyone criticizing you on Twitter stopping you from starting your GoFundMe?
Right. I mean, sometimes bad press, if you can handle it properly and do it correctly, will get you more clicks and views. So maybe, it do be like that. Okay, you may hear negative stuff about me or AAI. I don't think any of your guys' criticism has really been about this guy in particular, except for his like direct addresses, right? Like stuff like this, where it's like, this is not well worded, and you're not addressing our criticism. So the criticism of him as an individual is more about, hey, you're not addressing our criticism. It's not actually about him as a person.
Right.
Yeah, I'm look, he very often, as I say, recites this response. I'm a wonderful person who's done great things. I would like to stipulate to the jury that I accept David Orenstein as a wonderful person who has done great things. That is not what I'm disputing. I'm like, this is not a situation where I'm saying this guy is an axe murderer presenting himself as a nice guy. That's not the accusation here.
I'm putting a poll in for the chat. So this is basically how the AAI votes. There you go, guys. Take a vote. You may hear negative stuff about me or AAI, but think about who is posting. Do they have other motives? Are they doing their work to negate AAI for their own emotional or political gain? This is not a full paragraph. First off, you need to actually list some examples, perhaps. But at the same time, this is taking what he subtly hinted at the paragraph before and then just being like, let me kick this real loud. It's subtle, guys. It's subtle. It's very subtle. Don't criticize me, or else
well,
you have
I
ulterior
for
motives.
one want to know what Seamus' ulterior.
Sorry, say
What
again?
is your ulterior motive, Seamus? Come clean immediately.
Honestly, I want to get on an international platform so I can somehow get more Irish distillers to give me more, free booze. That's really what it is.
I feel like
I
this
must
guy.
complain. That's really what it is.
I feel like this guy's wasting his 15 seconds of fame with the position that he seems to have on 400 likes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it also doesn't seem to have occurred to him that he's making a rather long list of that are criticizing him, and it doesn't seem to occur to him. Maybe it's you, David. Maybe it's not your critics.
Maybe. Of the 5,000 people of whom I am friends with on Facebook, many of you 5,000 Facebook friends are.
He just ratioed himself too. Really, didn't he?
Yep.
Just by putting that out.
5,000 friends, but only 400 of them liked his post.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yep.
They're the engagement percentages.
Yeah.
Many of you know me to be an ethical person and a sincere friend. I do not believe for a second that you are actually friends with your 5,000 friends on Facebook. Not for a second do I believe that. Someone who has spent more than a decade building my reputation as an advocate and activist, I have always been respectful and have always tried to build bridges. Good for you. Now answer the criticism so you can build that bridge, big boy.
But we have new information there, Chish. I think the new information we have learned and what you just read out is that David Orenstein is a wonderful person who has done fantastic things. We didn't, up until that sentence, we didn't know that. David hadn't mentioned that before.
Listen, it's that thing nobody's criticizing or has any issue with. Weird.
You're not privy to the new stuff, man. I mean, you're not up on all of it.
Oh, no.
Do all the information, the tutor can only hold on to so much.
David, you are a lovely person. We care about you very, very much, and you've done some wonderful things. Now, please come and have an adult conversation with us because we know you want to build bridges. You will be treated fairly. Oh, and do you know every AAI board member is a volunteer? That none of us are doing the work for financial gain?
That was me too, man.
Yeah.
Except I wasn't like Muttley going metal, metal, metal.
I need to pee. I hold on. I can't. I need to walk away from this for a second.
Okay.
Don't get me in trouble.
We're my turn to pee too.
I need that gift, Seamus. Isn't there a gift somewhere of Muttley going metal, metal, metal?
Yeah, right. But again, like David Orenstein is literally I think I said this to you earlier. If anybody's ever seen the film Miller's Crossing, he is literally Johnny Casper in the beginning of it, right? A fix is a fix.
Are you giving David Orenstein the hat?
Yeah, I definitely give him the hi hat. Yeah, I'm a fancy pants. All of us. That's it. Yeah. There's a lot of rumpus going on for sure.
What's the rumpus?
Oh, that's it.
So I think there's a slight delay, Seamus. I'm going to reload this page and hope it fixes the delay, okay?
Okay, I'll hang tight till you come back. So, I have hijacked the show, everybody. So, what's going on?
I can and will rage quit my own show.
Too late.
I can and will I will rage quit my own show.
I was trying to hide that. John was rebooting, so it was just going to be me.
Oh, no.
I was going to ask for donations and whiskey, but you guys came back way too fast.
We're too fast for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hear me out.
See, I'm upfront about my unethical behavior. Man,
Oh.
so.
The thing is about being proud of your own ethical behavior is that it's your own ethics. You get to pick what they are to begin with.
Yeah.
So, okay, hold on. This breaks my brain. Do you
that
know,
says a lot.
Right? I've seen some shit.
Yeah.
Every AAI board member is a volunteer. Did you know that? That none of us are doing the work for financial gain. Okay, no one asked. Why would you just say that? Because now I'm questioning that that's like actually true. But also, it's just like walking into a room or you walk into a building and somebody says, but don't worry, there's no mind readers here. Now I think there's mind readers here.
Do you know what speed you were doing, sir? Officer, there are no dead bodies in the boot.
Right, yeah, like, what? Did you know you didn't signal at that light? I didn't bury a dead body 20 feet away from here 5 minutes ago.
Well, the other thing to note here is that every other director before David also did the work for free. Hi, David. Everyone else who turned up at the United Nations when David didn't also did that for free. But everyone else before David, before the current crowd took over, published financial accounts at the end of the year.
Oh,
the only people who didn't publish financial accounts is David and his buddies. So if you want to know, see when I was on the board of Atheist Alliance International, if you wanted to know whether I got compensated in any way, you can just look at the financial accounts and you'll see that I did.
No, so they're like, we're volunteers now, so we're not publishing anything, so you don't really need to know about this thing nobody was criticizing you about.
Promise. Oh. Exactly. We're volunteers, promise.
Thank you for shining this big-ass bright spotlight on this thing nobody was questioning, and now everybody is questioning.
Yes.
And they lapsed. John, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but did they not lapse in their non-profit exemptions for a long period?
This was so you might have a view on this, Chase. This might be different in the States than it is in Europe. But one of the things that Shirley revealed when she resigned from the board is that a couple of years ago they lost their non-profit status with the IRS, and not alone that, they declined to inform their donors. So when David complains in this about people publishing internal messages, one of the internal messages that Shirley published was her explaining that, listen, folks, if you don't tell our donors that we've lost our non-profit status at the IRS, then our donors could get in trouble for claiming a tax back when we don't have tax-exempt status.
Right, yeah.
And notwithstanding that, the donors were not informed. So we don't know why they lost that status. We don't know what the reason was, but if you go and look it up, I will invite people to go and look up the relevant site in the United States. You can just
California.
type in Atheist Alliance International and in California, and up that their status has suspended.
Okay. All right. So let me get this straight. There's more, but
go ahead.
Oh, God damn it. Of course. So
well,
far,
I don't know. Are we able to share the other part, John, tonight or not? I don't know. What the whole data issue? Should we?
Are you going to hurt me more?
Okay. That's another drama.
Yeah.
That's another drama.
Yeah, so there was a issue with people's data being exchanged, and that was the whole AAI, right? Because people involved in the original coup left to form their own clandestine, organization, and they basically took all the information over there. So at no point did they, AAI, inform their members that their information was taken.
Is this like a blunder of incompetency, or do you think that this is like actual gain and malice?
Well, we do know that they discussed it, and they decided not to let everybody know.
There are some internal communications on this topic that have been published also, Chief. So let me give you the quick skinny on what happened there. So there was Atheist Alliance International, AAI. From that, there was a splinter. Some people who were in AAI left, and they created the International Association of Atheists, IAA. So, at this point, you can insert your own joke about the Judean People's Front and the People's Front of Judea. But as soon as the splinter group was formed, all of the donors to the original AAI group got emails from the new splinter group asking for money. Therefore, the original group said, well, you folks have left and just took the database of donors with you, and that's not a good idea. Let's call that data theft. And they published something on their website threatening to go to the police unless the splinter group deleted all the data. The splinter group did not delete the data. The original group did not go to the police. But the point is, this is all kind of a long time after the fact. There are some internal messages that are now available in which Michael Sherlock is telling the board, I'm not on the board, you're the board, I'm only the executive director. You guys need to go to the people whose data was taken and explain to them your data has been taken on account of that's what the law is. And they did not do that.
That's a whole. There's so much yikes in that.
Yes.
So, you've got a nepotism-esque fake election. You've got tax issues. Potentially tax fraud. Potentially. You've got stolen data that was not disclosed. You have financials that are not disclosed. You have processes that are not disclosed. You have strong arm changes. You have neglect of your members, at the very least, when it comes to actual voting processes and changing of processes. Why do you have a board at all at that point? Like, why are you even pretending what kind of, like, if you just want to have a different kind of organization, just have a different kind of organization.
Why have bylaws either, right? They refer to bylaws like, we observe them, as in, we observe the horizon way out there. It doesn't actually affect us. We can see it.
Honor among thieves.
Yeah.
So this is funny. I think this is funny. So in most organizations, the bylaws serve to impose in what the executive board can do by the members. So the members say, here's what you can do, and if you want to go any further than that, you have to come back to the members and we'll all vote. But here's the amount of discretion you have, and here's the amount of discretion you don't have. That's what the bylaws are for.
But he's saying this whole thing about none of us we're volunteers, none of us are doing this for financial gain, but we're not putting the tax information or our financial information out, even though we used to. But now we're volunteers, so we don't, now we're just not going to do that. But none of us are doing it for financial gain, but I'm asking for donations.
Exactly. And at the bottom of this,
cordially, David.
Yeah.
See the messages he's complaining about there? some of the messages he's complaining about are internal board messages when they changed the bylaws. So
Right.
the first thing that they did was they got rid of the idea that changing the bylaws requires a vote of all the members at an AGM. That used to be the case. Then they changed that and said, no, we can change the bylaws themselves. So one of the internal messages sequences was the board wanted to do XYZ. It was against the bylaws. Therefore, in the same message thread, someone says, I propose a motion we change the bylaws to let us do this thing. Someone else says, I second that motion. They pass the change to the bylaws, and then they do what they wanted to do anyway. At which point you think, guys, what is the point in the bylaws? You're just going to do whatever you want to do
What's
in the moment on a whim.
What
is the point in
if you want to be a
bylaws?
monarchy, if you want to be a king, just be a king. I'm gonna switch us back over because we're done looking at this. This is not yet. Please hire them, pay them real money, and get a PR person. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. I don't know why you would write this or even write it in this way. This is so like not only hand wavy but like semi justification for things that you're also saying don't exist. Like I don't please.
It's very Oz-ish, right? I mean, kind of don't look behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Behind here.
Yeah, it really is. It does come across that way.
Again, you could like take out the names of all the secular things and put in the church. It comes across very much like that, does it not? I mean, everything about it.
Yeah, no, you actually could. You could take the majority of all that's in there and just frame David as a pastor of maybe potentially a mega church or even like a religious organization, and it would read the exact same.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's sad.
Yeah.
For an organization that has and I'm not going to take that away from that organization. That organization has done a ton of good work. Like,
sure,
plenty of good work, but it's not the criticism that's taking away from that good work. It's the poor behavior of board members that would do that.
Yeah, I mean, we could even go down from the point of the coup to now and compare to how active they were before, and that's the other issue. They're not really active on, a large scale as to what they were before. I mean, we've talked about that before as well, John, right? I mean, they're just not.
Yeah. Anytime you ask them about their organization, the first words out of their mouth are, "We're the only atheist group in the world with status at the United Nations." To which you think, very good, folks, but you've done precisely nothing at the United Nations since you took over.
And if you keep this shit up, you might not have that anymore if you're losing your tax exempt status and you're sending them letters that are things that already apply to you anyway. You're going to lose that too.
Yeah,
rightfully so.
I mean, a big deal about the right to be secular campaign that they're going to submit these videos, and they never did, or at least there's no evidence that they ever did submit these videos. So even they started this shitty campaign, there's no evidence that they actually carried it through. I mean, it's just a dumpster fire. I mean, you had two
dumpster
guys
fires in the chat.
Yeah. Awesome. You had two guys as president and vice president, Mr. Bumman and Mr. Fallick. They couldn't get anything done, and then want to just take a shit on everybody else for criticizing them.
It's a shoot the messenger kind of thing, right? The idea is that the person who's bringing forth these potential issues or these people that are bringing forth this message that it might come across to you as negative are the ones causing the issue, when they are not the ones causing the issue. They're the ones trying to help you. What you're doing, you're active, like talking about these things and coming on here and talking to me about these things and spreading this around is not bad, negative things for the AAI. What's bad and negative things for the AAI is them to continue with doing this kind of thing and ignoring things that are legitimately criticize, like legitimate criticism towards them, because it's a thing that people's brains do. They take criticism
Right.
personally as if that's causing the problem, or they project that onto the person who's just making them aware. You guys are being helpful to them. All they have to do is actually take the criticism on board and address it appropriately and make appropriate changes. However, if they are in a position where it's like, no, we just want to be this kind of organization and we want to pretend to people that we aren't this kind of organization, then that's a real big problem, because you're completely undermining their entire snake oil sale.
Yes. Yeah, it's just... goodness.
I would like to point out we did do a poll to vote yes or yes, and I would like to happily announce that it was 50% yes and 50% yes, so yes are the winners.
Oh, wow.
Yay! Successful election of yes. Because what
we
you
will
vote
take
on doesn't matter.
democratic elections anytime we get them, which is far and few between. So,
yeah, there you go. This seems like just a hole that just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Was there
it's like tribalistic thinking, right? I mean, like here in the States, if you're on the left and you criticize the Democratic Party, then all of a sudden you're part of the right. There's a lot. It's like the same kind of arguments that they're kind of making. You can't critique us because we're trying to do what's right by atheists. How dare you? No, we're trying to fucking help you bastards.
You're just pretend Christians trying to undermine all of the good work that's already been completed. Exactly. It's not like they're doing anything new.
Right.
You can't hide behind... You're basically standing on Einstein's shoulders while kicking him in the head, pretending you're doing something. I don't know. We are at the hour and 40-minute mark. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to show, or anything else that you wanted to talk about in particular? Because I don't want something getting missed in all of this. Was a lot. This is a lot of information.
Yeah,
but I'm sure. Breaking news, Chief. Breaking news.
Jesus.
I just received an email from David Ornstein, who has, I suspect because he's listening to your show right now, Chief. Hi, David. Hi. So he wants to bring on extra board members to our podcast on Sunday. So, David's welcome to bring on as many board members as he likes. So, as of this moment, David is still committing to come on to our podcast this coming Sunday, and moreover, his view is that he wants to bring extra members of the board on to answer all of these questions. Whether or not he turns up remains to be seen.
Sunday.
Yeah, that's what it's turning into.
I mean, it's just going to turn in... are you going to let him bring on more than, two? Himself and another person? Because I know that kind of stuff tends to get hairy in, in this kind of a setting.
Well, I've just told him he can bring on as many as he likes, and I've made a commitment on your behalf, Seamus. I hope you don't mind. I've said you'll tell him you'll send as many links out as he likes.
Yeah, I mean, recently, so we kind of switched our format a little bit. Used to be a weekly show. It was usually just me and John. We found these two dudes, but kind of they come around a lot. Barry Purcell and Martin Boers. So they've kind of become part of the show. The kind of pub philosophers that they are as well. And we've been doing live sticks kind of bi-weekly, although it ended up not being bi-weekly this week. But anyways, and that's where we are with that. I'm not sure if it's going to be the full crew this weekend against whatever army that David plans to bring, but that's fine. I mean, he can bring as many people as he wants. I mean, you can bring numbers, but you can't fight the facts, man. Sorry. So
yeah, well, if you guys end up needing an extra or a different platform or a different space and a mediator, I'm your gal. I'm more than happy to host for you if you need. But like, yeah, it sounds like you got this
We're
well handled.
100% up for that, Steve. That sounds great.
Yeah, because I mean, I know how sometimes like, oh, the debate me bro side of the atheist community is like, okay, come on, you want to debate? The problem is that you've got to bring your position, right? So again, you will be treated fairly, and so far, I've been presented with some valid criticisms. If you have the counters to those criticisms, I'm more than happy to bring that too. But what do you guys think what answers could they possibly have that would satisfy your criticisms?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. So let's see. I think David should explain. He came on our podcast before, and he said some things that seemed just disingenuous at best to me, and I would actually say dishonest. But if he can reconcile the two things, maybe there's something I'm missing. He came on to our podcast. He said, "I'm an outsider. I'm the new guy in this board that did all these horrible things going back way back when. I'm not part of that. I'm here to fix all of the problems of the past." And we now know that while he was saying all those things, he was conspiring with the board to have himself installed as president. So maybe there's some way in which those two things can be reconciled, in that maybe it's not dishonest at all. Maybe there's something I'm missing. So if David can explain to me how I've missed something, and what I'm assuming is disingenuousness on his part is nothing of the sort, maybe he can do that, and I will immediately apologize. But he has yet to attempt an answer to that question. We will wait patiently for his answer on Sunday.
If he said, let me put it this way, if he said, hey, I see your criticisms, these are legitimate criticisms, I plan on dealing with the old guard stuff and pushing forward with these new policies, that is on its own is not good enough. But if he's able to actually present new policies and planning, do you think that might be something that would be a little bit satisfying?
Well, here's the thing. So if he talks about it depends what it means when he says deal with the problems that happened previously. So let me give you an analogy, Chish. Let's say I burgle your house tonight and steal your TV, and your TV is now in my house, and you've been accusing me of burgling your house for a while, and eventually I say, okay, Chish, I accept your house got burgled. Maybe it was me. Who knows? Who can tell? Let's just, I'll apologize and we can move on. Why don't we talk about the future? Your front windscreen is bigger than your rear view mirror. Why are you always looking at the past, Chish? At some point, you might say, dude, can I have my fucking TV back, please? Like, the remedy cannot be apologize and move on. You have to try and fix the problem.
Right.
And I think Seamus hit the nail on the head previously when he compared this to the Catholic bishops. Every time someone says to a Catholic bishop, you did this wrong thing, you moved this priest from parish to parish when you knew what he was doing in all of those parishes, you are culpable for that. And inevitably the Catholic priest will say, but I'm a wonderful person who's done fantastic things. Just like David Ornstein responds in that way. And at some point, someone will say,
non-answer.
Maybe the Catholic Church can move on. Maybe the Catholic Church can draw a line under this and look at the future. But the first thing you have to do is be honest about what happened. The first thing you have to do is say, this is what we did. This is what's wrong. You can't just say, people are criticizing us on Twitter. Isn't this terrible? I'm a wonderful person who's done fantastic things. Not fucking good enough. Not fucking good enough.
There's something that
And all
my
of these processes,
Discord. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
truth and reconciliation. Isn't that what they call it in South Africa? And all
Yes.
these other processes. The first word is truth. Tell the fucking truth to begin with. You can't draw a line under it and move on until you accept this is what we did and it was wrong. Just saying the windscreen is bigger than the rear view mirror is not good enough.
It doesn't address anything. It's just ignoring it. It's Hakuna Matata. It's the Hakuna Matata answer.
Yeah. And at what point do they owe any of this to their members, to their affiliates, the people who have stood by them all this time, to the members that they shat on, including FFRF and Atheist Ireland, right? They totally screwed those two wonderful organizations, for no fucking reason other than to perform a coup. I'm sorry, David, if you there's another adage that I like to add to your little platitudes. You bought it, you own it, motherfucker. Okay, so you have to step up and you have to own what you bought. Part of what you owed was a sour bag of grapes, so you have to explain how this coup went down and how to fix it. Okay, otherwise, going forward doesn't matter.
Right, because you can't just take something. I mean, not as somebody who may or may not have been through something like this before. You have to own up to and create and bring forward the thing that you've been promising people, the thing that people have bought into and people have given money and time and effort towards. If you just tell them to go fuck themselves, that's how you get entire groups leaving in swaths. Where you get like this whole chunk that you have people that you just ignored and you shit on, even though they've been supporting you through all this, and this, and you're no longer even providing the service that you're trying to sell to people.
Yeah, and if you're going to throw your CV out, I would love to hear how that stacks up against FFRS.
It's a non sequitur, right? It's a complete you the individual doing good things and having done good things is great and all, but it's a complete non sequitur and a non-starter to the conversation about what has gone on within this organization, even if this organization has done good things. Nothing about any of this is undermining those good things. If you continue to ignore the bad things, then you're going to struggle to continue to do good things in the future.
Absolutely.
Here.
Damn. What a good note to end on, I think, because that is just about the 2-hour mark. So you guys, you gotta watch this show on Sunday. I'm already like, spill the tea. Oh my god. What is this gonna be? But, do you have anything that you are...
Well, we should start it like... So yeah. Martin has suggested a drinking game.
Yes.
So the drinking game should be... And I would suggest everybody to bring something not too heavy because I think you'll be drinking a lot. Anytime David mentions himself in a positive way, you have to take a drink. So
I would recommend adding in that anytime as a non sequitur.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's most of them will be.
We'll still be very, very.
Yeah, I have done some really great things. My resume is incredible. Only I can fix it.
I mean, great. Fine. If you're the only one who can fix it, then fix it.
Exactly.
I think you got to hold his feet to the fire of how. If he's like, yeah, this is a problem, I'm going to fix it. You got to be like, okay, how? What are you doing? What's your plan? What do you got going forward? No, none of this Joe Biden shit of, well, I'm not Trump.
Thank you. Yeah. If only somebody could do something.
Should we do something? We should do something. Yeah. Who watches the watchers?
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
Start on fire.
All right. Let's get out of here. Thank you both for coming. If you don't mind reiterating who you are, what it is you do, and what it is you stand for.
Thank you kindly for the opportunity. We very much appreciate the time. That was a lot of fun.
I'll come back anytime. You're always welcome. But who are you? What do you do?
deep questions, John. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we host a bi-weekly podcast on YouTube, all the wonderful places where you can get podcast. We do this, like I said, bi-weekly live now. Occasional other episodes, but we're gonna try to stick to that format. Basically, it's kind of a pub format with the four of us, the two of us that kind of started this whole shenanigans, and then Martin Boers and Barry Purcell, the rhetoric of the raker of rhetoric. I probably got that wrong, but anyways, so we just try to touch on the topics of the day. Also, we do some historical cracks, kind of looking at where we've been in the past and kind of having a laugh about the nonsense that led us to be where we are now. Other than that, we try to engage in other shenanigans as this, dealing with a lot of the dumpster fires that come across in the secular world and YouTube nonsense. I don't know, John, you want to add anything to that, or?
That sounds about right to me, Seamus. I couldn't have put it better myself.
I would absolutely love to have one or two, both of you come on and talk with potentially Trolley Dave and Answers and Reason, because I think that would be a fantastic, like, atheist religious kind of conversation, and just do a 2-on-2. That would be so good. So I'm gonna start reaching out to make that happen now, because that just came to my brain right this second, and I'm like, oh my god, why didn't I think of this sooner? So look out for something like that coming sometime in the near future, because these two will always be welcome. David, I would like to point out that you are also welcome, as well as now I kind of want to get all of the previous like board members or like people that were in charge of this organization on to all talk about like just
Shirley,
have like a shit.
Shirley.
Yeah, we gotta get Shirley on.
Oh, Shirley's awesome.
Gotta get Shirley on. Shirley is amazing.
All right, well, you're gonna have to send me her contact information, and we'll look into setting up the next debate hub. However, tomorrow is going to be me going through the Johnny Depp Amber Heard closing statements. Yay for me! And I'm willing to bet that Amber Heard's closing statements, it's not her, but her lawyer's closing statements are going to be, but she's such a good person. Look at all the good things that she's done. Surely we'll never see that again. Yeah, right. So look out for that tomorrow. I think that's and the grand opening of the Unnamed Tavern is starting, which is open forum discussion. We're going to talk about anything you could probably think of. Expect it to be crude, rude, and topical, as well as the opposite of topical. So probably things that nobody cares about. But it's basically just a big get-together, hangout-y type open forum, open platform sort of stream. So I will get to work on setting up the next debate hub. I will see you all tomorrow, and consider liking, subscribing, and supporting on either Patreon or with members. You'll be able to join the Discord where there's all kinds of additional stuff. And, if you like more of the shenanigans and, you like the little dumpster fire emoji, we'll see you guys there. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Candy. Take care. Bye.
Bye.